What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Adam. It's hashtag homeless day 112. And yeah, I got some notes to talk about some things today. And the biggest update is I was able to book everything yesterday. I do have to make some arrangements or just confirm things with people, make some phone calls, do all that kind of stuff. But I should be leaving next Tuesday morning from Jamestown, picking up a rental vehicle, driving to Pittsburgh, picking up some personal property, trying to make it to Kentucky before it's ridiculously late. And whatever it takes. But I do have to get some sleep during this adventure. And from there, from Kentucky, I'll be driving straight through to my friend's house in Texas as fast as, I can go without speeding, without, causing any problems or bringing any more trouble into my life. There are some concerns when it comes to the car rental company. And whatever, I'm not 100% sure that, I'm going to be hassle-free with the car rental situation, but I'm just going to try and trust that God is going to work things out. And I'm not going to get into the details, maybe for another video, but I'm trying not to dwell on things too much. One day at a time. There's a lot going on that I'm, going to leave out of the video. Some of it has to do with there's just a lot of different nerves being fired off right now in terms of the uncertainty, the unknown, the whatever could go wrong, the fact I haven't seen my kids in so long, just lots of different things, and it isn't going to help me to sit and dwell on them. I'm focusing on today, and I'm going to focus there. And I think that's pretty much what I'm going to really just talk about today. But before I get into that topic deeper, a couple of days ago, I was walking. It probably is time to leave Jamestown because I was walking around town a couple of days ago. I was running some errands during lunch, and I was in my own head. I wasn't really paying attention to, other than putting one foot in front of the other and all that. And I'm walking by a bench on the sidewalk, and I hear someone yell out, "Hey, I know you. You're the guy doing those YouTube videos." And I'm like, oh, whoa. I don't think that's happened to me before. Not as I'm walking around town. I haven't had that happen yet. But, I do wear the same 3 or 4 shirts every day. I'm always wearing this pullover if it's cold outside or chilly outside. And so, it'd certainly be easy to recognize me because I'm always wearing my hashtag homeless uniform. I don't really change too much. I mean, I change my clothes, but they all look the same. So anyway, I talked to this guy for a while, and that was pretty fun. He said he enjoys the channel, got some good information out of it. He agreed that Jamestown sucks, and he's also trying to get out of here. So pretty soon, Jamestown will be 2 less residents on the census. But then, once again, yesterday, I'm somewhere else in town. And I walked past somebody who I already kind of knew. But when I passed him, he said, "Hey, man, I didn't know you were doing YouTube videos. I just found your channel a couple weeks ago." He's like, "You get some pretty good videos there," and this and that and the other thing. He's like, "I subscribed to your channel a couple weeks ago. I didn't know you were doing that." And so, yeah, I kind of keep it. I don't, even though I'm on YouTube, anybody in the world can come here and watch these videos. I'm not actively promoting them as I go around town, as I'm dealing with the homeless shelter, all the different places, because in a normal situation, I wouldn't care about those things. But when you're in a state where you're vulnerable and any little thing could, you're my house is a deck of cards right now, or house of cards right now. And one little puff of wind, one little breeze, and the whole thing's going to collapse. And so, yeah, I'm trying. It's more out of like self-preservation and protection of just not wanting to have more problems in life because somebody doesn't like what I'm doing here. And so I don't care if they find out on their own. Like, I'm out there, I'm on YouTube, I'm on all these social media platforms, I'm doing my thing. It is what it is, I'm out there. But for the time being, I'm not telling the people that are closest around me about it because I don't want, it's out of self-protection, of just not wanting to have extra drama come into my life because someone doesn't like what you're doing. And maybe when I'm in Texas, maybe when things settle down, maybe when I have a stable roof over my head and some stability back in life. And a lot of this is coming about because of this YouTube channel. So I could say I would honestly say that other than getting approved by probation, everything else that is falling into place right now, including getting projects to work on, which is generating some income, that's in turn helping me figure out how to get to Texas and all of that. Like, I have to go down to social services today and cancel my social services. So yay, all you Republicans and all you people that are sick and tired of me living off the government dole and eating off of your dime, that's coming to an end. I was gonna have to cancel the services anyway because I'm moving out of state. But now I'm going to be canceling them because I'm generating a little bit of income. And it's not stable income. It's not a job. It's not a full-time job. It's a means to an end right now, but it's helping me. And all of these things are coming about because of this YouTube channel, because I just decided one day to sit at the picnic table that I'm looking at in the distance right here and decided to just say, you know what, I'll start documenting this and I'll start talking about it. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where this is going to go. And I had no followers, 0 followers. I had, it was the first video. I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. But maybe it is time to get out of Jamestown, because now I'm walking around town and people are recognizing me and saying, hey, that's that guy. That's that guy. So yeah, maybe it is time to move to Texas before the mayor of Jamestown comes up to me on the street and starts getting angry with me for bad-mouthing her town. Or something like that. Who knows? So yeah, my trip is booked. And then, like I said, as long as everything goes smoothly, I'll be on the road Tuesday morning. I'll stop in Pittsburgh, get some belongings, see my kids. And then from there, it's another 20-something hour long drive to my friend's house in Texas with, pulling over to sleep in a hammock for a night. Like I said, these car rental places, they can be a pain. But I'm just hoping it all goes smoothly. It's just one of those things. My mind is circling. The sharks are swimming. What can go wrong? What can go wrong? What can go wrong? And so, it's God keeps telling me to stop worrying about it in his own mysterious ways. I can certainly say that. I've been some weird coincidences, just signs and wonders keep popping up in front of me. More or less, the message that I'm hoping that it means is, don't worry about it, I got this. Just been so many crazy, weird things happening just in the last 2 to 3 weeks. One really weird one yesterday, it was actually pretty hysterical, and I really don't know what to make out of it, but it was just another one of these out-of-this-world coincidences, and I'm just not ready to share it with you viewers just yet. It'll probably become part of the Synchronicity series once I figure out how to get those done, and those are obviously at this point, those are going to continue after I'm down in Texas, because the next week of my life is going to be nothing but busy and chaos. And that's fine. It's a good busy and it's a good chaos. It's for a good cause. So I'm not too worried. I'm not too upset about that. I would like to have, I would just like to get to a point where I can sit and just relax, lay down, close my eyes, and wake up when my body wants to wake up, instead of, being forced to wake up every single day for over 2 years, before 7 a.m. But yeah, like I said, I've got nervous energy about this. But I keep saying in the videos, this is normal to go through. And the trick I have for dealing with it is to try not to fight it off. Like, don't try and fight it, and don't try to force it to go away, but just acknowledge it for what it is, and that this is something that you do. And then think about all the times that you've been worried about things that never materialize into reality. And realize that for me, I'm always going to think of the worst case scenarios in every stressful situation. It's just part of my nature. Something wired me to do that. And so once in a great while, I don't know, it's a really low percentage. The worst things do happen. And maybe it's just the fact that every now and then the worst thing does happen, and it wires your brain to just expect the worst in every situation for whatever reason. The 2 stressful things that happened to me when I got out of prison, and to be honest, these are the only 2 worst case scenarios I went through. When I was released from prison, first of all, I was supposed to get released on April Fool's Day, literally, April 1st. And they called me down to the office where they book all of your travel and all of that stuff and get you your plan to get you home. And they said, oh, we're going to have to keep you here another day. April Fools. Literally, I got told I was getting set free to go home from prison on April Fool's Day, and then they turned around and pulled an April Fool's prank and said, nah, we're keeping you here for another day. Think about that. That's the worst April Fool's prank in the history of April Fools, possibly. But the next day, they booked my travel again. Or they did it the day before. But when the woman booked my travel, she said, look, you're going to have about 5 minutes to get off of this train in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and get on the bus that's going to take you the rest of the way. You're going to have 5 minutes there. She's like, here's where the train station is. Here's where the bus is. And so now I'm like, I got a 5-minute window to get from one to the other. What could possibly go wrong? And so I was scared. Because when they kick you out that door at prison, you got like $30 cash in your pocket, no identification, no cell phone. I was in a pair of shorts and a zip-up hoodie. And it's April 1st, it's April 2nd, and it's still, wintry out. But, they didn't give me any, real clothes to wear. They were just like, oh, you're fine. Pair of shorts and a t-shirt. You'll be all right. So I had to take a cab from the prison, to a train station. And then I had to get on this train to somewhere on Long Island, I believe. And then I had to get on another train that was going to Bridgeport, Connecticut, get off of that train, and that's where I've got the 5 minutes to get from the train to the bus. And so on the train to Long Island, the train's going really slow, and I'm looking at my watch, and I'm thinking, oh no. And then the conductor asks me, where are you going? And I told him, and he just shakes his head. He's like, nope, you're not going to make it. And he's like, well, you might make it. And so basically there was some construction, there was something going on, and it caused all the trains to be delayed. And so when the train pulled into the station at Long Island, on the other side of the platform, the train that I was supposed to catch to go to Bridgeport was pulling out of the station. So I missed it. But then people were like, oh, there's a train every 5 minutes or so. You'll be all right. So I basically ran to the other side of the platform. I jumped on the next train to Bridgeport, get to Bridgeport, and obviously I get off the train in Bridgeport and I run over to the bus station. The bus is nowhere to be found. It's gone. And so now I'm stranded. And not only stranded, but my bus ticket's no good. I don't have a way to get home. I don't have a phone. I don't have any money. It's freezing rain out. It's like snowing / freezing rain. I'm in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt and a zip-up hoodie that's no thicker than this. Not even a hoodie. It was just a zip-up pullover. A crappy one. And that's all I had. And so I was panicked. I was in a borderline panic attack because, I've got so much time to get to Buffalo to report to probation. I don't even know how I'm going to get out of here. And some stranger was kind enough to let me use a cell phone, and I was able to make a couple calls. I ended up calling my lawyer. And people at my lawyer's office got in touch with the probation office in Bridgeport. And the probation office in Bridgeport told me to walk over there. They gave me directions and everything. And then a probation officer in Bridgeport was able to actually fix the whole situation and get me back on a train and back on a bus to get not home. He actually set it up. He looked at everything and he goes, I don't know what the person was thinking when they booked this trip for you. That was an idiotic thing to do, because they should have known right off the bat that you're never going to be able to get this bus. And he's like, anybody with a shred of common sense would have known these trains are always running late. To give you a 5-minute window to make a transfer from a train to a bus is ridiculous. And so he set it all up for me so that I don't know how it all worked out, but I ended up getting to Buffalo like 5 or 6 hours earlier than I would have had I stuck to the original plan, even with the whole messed up thing where I was stuck for a couple hours in Bridgeport. And then I had to wait a few hours in New Haven, Connecticut to get on this bus back to Manhattan, wait in Manhattan till like 11 o'clock at night outside of Madison Square Garden and pick up a bus there that went basically straight to Buffalo. And, but it all worked out. It not only worked out, it worked out better than it was supposed to from the beginning, but it was a very stressful situation to be stranded like that, in that situation. First, like within 2 hours of being out of prison, you're already stranded and without anything. So I kind of went through the same thing when I became homeless. That was the other thing, the worst case scenario that I had in my head that actually came true. And 2 days after getting picked up at the bus station in Buffalo, after going through all of that, I knew I was going to be homeless. And I didn't know what to do. I was terrified because the ex was treating me so badly and just so incredibly hostile toward me in every way, shape, or form imaginable that I knew it was just a matter of days before she threw a fit and kicked me to the curb and told me to get out of the house, get out of the apartment. And so I'm just trying to do everything I can to protect myself, and but nothing I did in that situation was this was a decision that had been made long before I came home, that this is what she was going to do. And so there was nothing I could do about it except just try to prolong the inevitable. And it was about 40 days later that I had to live with that stress for 40 straight days, knowing every day this could be the day that she throws me out of the street, throws me out into the street. And I had to just live with that for 40 something days. But if you're in that situation, if you were in my shoes, you would know this is coming. This is not You would not have any doubt in your mind that this was about to happen. The only question you would have in your mind is when. When is it going to happen? So, for whatever reason, now I'm just, like I said, I'm expecting the worst in every situation, even though I've been in hundreds of situations in the last May, June, July, August, 5 months. It's been 5 months now since I got released. I've probably been in hundreds of situations where I expected the worst, and 98 of those let's say there was 100 situations, 98 of them, the worst didn't come to pass. In fact, there was nothing, absolutely zero to worry about in those situations. But in 2 of the situations, the worst thing did happen. But even then, when the worst thing did happen, it still worked out. It still wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And so, but yesterday I was feeling it. This morning I'm really feeling it. It's always worse in the mornings. If I can take care of some things today, that'll mitigate that stress that I'm feeling right this minute. I don't know how, there's some noise coming this way. You probably can hear, but I'm just going to plow through it. One of the ways that I deal with the overwhelming stress is digging into my work. And last night was no exception. I started working on one of the freelance websites I'm building, the restaurant website. And I just focused on trying to get all of the text for the menus roughed out. And because of the sources that I had for these menus, it was a combination of using Google's Gemini AI tool to do OCR scans from the cell phone photos that I took of the printed menu, so I wouldn't have to sit there and type it all out. And I'm telling you, Google, the Gemini AI tool does a pretty good job. If you feed an image full of text, it did a really good job translating all of that text into, optical character recognition into text that I could copy and paste. And it was intelligent enough to figure out some things that you couldn't even read in the menu because of reflections on the plastic surface of the menu. And so because it's AI, it's not just an OCR scanner, but it's actually trying to intelligently figure out what's going on. It actually did some pretty impressive things that I noticed, just small things that it was doing, as it converted all of this text into text that I could copy and paste into this menu layout. There were other sources there was a couple of Microsoft Word documents, and there were some other sources of the text and the items, their previously existing website that's several years out of date. I was able to pull some things from it that I needed. So I used a combination of different sources to get that menu text roughed in. And it's not, without worrying about the layout and the aesthetics. I just want to get the content in, and I got pretty far. I came up with a bunch more questions and things that the owner's going to have to clarify or address, and I got a good chunk of that work finished, so I won't have to do it later. And right now I'm just focused on getting the text-based content roughed in across the entire website. I'm gathering it from multiple sources, and so the owner's helping out with that, and we're just kind of dropping it into the pages where it belongs without worrying about the layout or the design, because I just want to see how it lies in terms of the volume and space it's going to take up. And from there, I'll just begin organizing it, spacing it out, blocking it out, organizing it in a way that it looks good on a phone and is not confusing, and it looks good on a desktop computer. And once again, it's clean, aesthetically pleasing, and organized and easy to find what you're looking for. And so there's a process to this, and the process right now that I'm in is just kind of trying to gather everything that we need to put this together, and just throwing the things on the pages that it belongs on, but not worrying about. Right now it's kind of ugly, and that's fine. It's part of the process. So I'm gonna just talking about this process, I put everything for all of the menu items, everything from the drinks to the entrees to the appetizers to the sandwiches and everything, the late night menu, all of it on one single page, just to see how much space it takes up and how much stuff there is. And then now I have to make a decision. Do I separate it out into separate pages with a sub navigation bar so that you can navigate the different pages of the menu? Or do I make it like an accordion panel where when you get to the menu page, you just see categories. You click on a category and it opens up. And then maybe you click on a different category, the previous category closes, and the category you clicked on opens up and displays, so that you're not scrolling a 20-foot long web page. So those are some decisions I'll have to make, and a lot of it's going to depend on the content, like in terms of, am I getting photography for this? Probably not, to get it launched. And from there, it's just, not just aesthetics, but I might just have to try it one way, go with my gut feeling, and if it seems too cumbersome or too clunky, do it the other way, because there's pros and cons to doing it either way. So, but it's not crazy, it's not ridiculous, it's not like the Cheesecake Factory where they have like a 50-page menu. It's nothing like that, but it is a full selection. It's a full restaurant menu, not one of these dainty one-page menus that you would see at like a bistro or a cafe. They do everything from wings and finger food to steaks and pasta and seafood, and of course you don't forget your Western New York Friday night fish fry. That's a big thing here in Western New York. The whole of Western New York, and it even bleeds a little bit into northwestern Pennsylvania when you cross the border. You'll find a few Friday night fish fry spots. But I've never known my whole life. I grew up in Western New York, and I really don't know why you can only get a fish fry on Friday. But that's been the thing since I was a kid. My grandparents used to take me to Friday night fish fry almost every week. That was a family thing. That's a big thing in Western New York, the Friday night fish fry. If you're from Western New York, I'm right. You know what I'm talking about. Garbage plates and Friday night fish fry. That's where it's at. That's Western New York's food. There is one restaurant here in Jamestown that you can get the Friday night fish fry any day of the week for lunch, dinner, whatever you want. And honestly, it might be the only place in Western New York where you can do that. And I don't know, they must have cornered the market on the Friday night fish. I don't know, but I like this restaurant. I go there. I always get the Friday night fish fry, even if it's like a Tuesday at lunch. But I haven't been there since I was released from prison. And I'm probably never going to eat there again, because there's only so many days between today and the day I'm leaving. But just getting some things accomplished and working on things to keep my mind busy, it did a great deal to calm down the nerves about all this stuff that I'm working on, and the stress related to trying to get down to Texas smoothly and safely and efficiently, and just there's going to be a day, hopefully soon, where I can just breathe a sigh of relief and just sit and relax. Yesterday at the end of the video, I was saying that there was something I was forgetting, and like I said that I would remember it as soon as I got done with the video and walked away, and I did. I gotta check something here. Oh. Okay. Whoa, okay. All right. All right. Cool. 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 All right. All right. Sorry about this, guys. I got a text message here that I'm going to do a time check on this video and see where I'm at. I'm at half an hour. So, all right. Yeah, I got to go. I'm going to have, I'm sitting here doing my work while I'm talking to you guys on the video. I got to go to a little meeting here and after I'm wrapped up this video. But there are some, I think it'll be positive. I think the things that I'm nervous about right now, this is synchronicity. This is God talking to me right now. This text message that I just got and read through, some of the things that I'm nervous about right now, right this minute, are, I think that I just got the answer to, or I think I can calm my nerves and, I think I can relax. I got to go talk to somebody. I got to go talk about a few things. And I think whatever I'm worried about, in fact, I'll have to put it in another video, but this could actually be really good. Like, this could be a really, really awesome thing. Like a coincidental kind of synchronicity, miraculous kind of a thing that, yeah. But we'll see how it goes. It's all just, everything's up in the air. But by the end of the day today, I honestly think that the way this is going to go, by the end of the day today, I'm probably going to be under a lot less stress about all of this. I really do, based on just the text message that I just read. And some things, yeah, I'm a little bit of a space cadet because this whole thing is, I'm used to flying by the seat of my pants and traveling and going on crazy adventures where you don't know what's going to happen when and all that kind of stuff. Traveling the country I've gone on cross-country drives without having a credit card, like where I literally had one debit card with money in a bank account and pretty much enough cash I always take enough cash in my pocket when I go on a trip like this to pay for my trip, to pay for my ability to get home if something happens. I was in a parking garage in Cincinnati. I stopped to take some photographs of the city skyline. And when I went to leave the parking garage, my bank card got frozen. The bank that I had in Pittsburgh, anytime you leave Pittsburgh, anytime you leave the state, you swipe that card one time, boom, you're locked out of your account. It was, it's the only bank that I've dealt with that was that crazy. This bank could lock my card 3 times on a road trip because I tried to use it to pay for gas more than once. And it'll see that, oh, he went to another state, lock him out. There was one time I went grocery shopping now I lived right next to the Ohio border. I went grocery shopping in a town just on the other side of the Ohio border. They froze my card when I went to pay for my groceries. And so, but there was a time where, I didn't have a bunch of credit cards. I didn't have all kinds of backup funding. And I was literally just flying by the seat of my pants with a debit card in my hand and a wad of cash, like maybe $500, enough to pay for the gas and tolls and whatnot to get home if for some reason. And then I would have to be constantly calling the bank or replying to text messages saying, please unlock my card 3-4 times a trip. I got really irate with the bank a couple of times about that. And they're like, well, it's just our security. We don't want you to experience fraud. It's like, yeah, but I don't want to be stranded somewhere either. So it was actually because of those situations that I started to get more credit cards and opened up a checking account with a second bank and tried to hedge things a little bit so that I had more money or more access to funds in an emergency. And but I know there was one time I went on a long trip. I think it was to Florida. I probably had like $200 to my name. But I knew that my direct deposit was supposed to hit while I'm like maybe 5 or 6 days into the trip. And so I'm like, well, I really can't afford to get home if my direct deposit gets screwed up, but YOLO, let's go. And I would just go, riding on the fact that actually I remember this trip. One specific trip about this where I had less than $200 to my name, and we were going to North Carolina to go camping on a beach. And there was a ferry that was going to cost $100 just to get from the mainland to the beach. It's called Cape Lookout. You can look this up. But you can camp on the beach. It was really cool. We had a 5-mile stretch of beach completely to ourselves with absolutely no neighbors. It was crazy awesome. And when you're on that beach, there's nowhere to spend money. But so I spent like $100, and it ended up being, they told me it was going to be $100 on the website, but then it ended up being a little bit less than $100. It may have been like significantly less than $100 for the ferry trip to and from the barrier island. And but on the way down there, I ended up having to pay a toll in Washington, D.C. I made the mistake of going through Washington, D.C. instead of taking the mountain roads around far away from Washington, D.C. to go south. And there was a specific reason for it, but we were going to get stuck in a 3-hour traffic jam on the first night of travel, and it was going to wreak havoc on everything. And the other option was take the variable rate toll road that they have on the Beltway, the variable rate toll lanes. Well, right now, that night, the toll to go halfway around Washington, D.C. and continue south to Richmond, the toll was $50 or $60 to go about 10 miles, 20 miles at the most. And so I was like, we're going to have to pay it. And so that, by the time that we got to this island in North Carolina, I probably had $50 to my name. And cell phone access was actually decent on the island. So I was able to use my phone. I was able to keep up with things. But at some point while we were on this barrier island, my direct deposit went through, and I'm like, okay, now we're good. Now we can get home. And we can enjoy the trip home. A lot of other things went haywire on that trip in a way. The morning that we were supposed to catch the ferry to come back across to the mainland, the zipper on my Jeep rear window soft top got stuck, and we had the thing packed completely full. So I had to, at the last minute, I had to rig up some crazy concoction to just get us there without all the stuff falling out of the back of the Jeep. And we ended up getting to the ferry about 30 seconds in the nick of time. And nothing fell out of the back of the Jeep. But and then after I was done packing the Jeep, that was the other thing. After we got completely done packing it, I realized that the keys to the Jeep were in a container that was buried so far deep that we literally had to pull every single thing out of the back of the Jeep just to get into a box that had another box within it. So that box had to be unpacked. It was like the Russian dolls where you had to unpack a box to get to another box and then unpack that box to get deep just to get to the keys to the Jeep that somehow got thrown in this thing earlier that day and then buried as deep as they could possibly be. And so with all of that stuff, we still made it. We were like 30 seconds away from them pulling up the ramps and taking off without us. And so, yeah, I mean, these things, you're always going to have something to worry about. And so I go on trips like that, and I do take on situations like that are nerve-wracking. And this Texas trip is really no different. I mean, the trip home from prison was no different. It was just a wild adventure full of craziness and problems and who knows what. But I ended up getting to the destination. And so that's the mindset I need to take on when I'm thinking about this Texas trip. Is how many times have you gone on some crazy thing happens, and yet somehow it all works out magically, and sometimes it is magically the way it works out. I'm not even gonna tell you this other stories that I had to tell, because this was triggering thoughts of things that have happened. I'm going to tell you one more story that's just off the cuff, just came to my mind as I'm talking about this subject. I was unemployed after, let's see, I'm trying to think of when this was. Oh, okay, so I've told you the story in videos. If you go back, I don't know what video it is, about how I was fired from a job for going to the hospital for the birth of my son. They fired me 2 days later. And I went through a really tough winter. I even started a new job, and then a week into the new job, this major blizzard hit. It was the biggest blizzard I ever saw while I was living in Pittsburgh. And this would have been in February of 2010. And so, it was that blizzard. So I lost my job again because of the blizzard. And that snow, we had 20 to 30 inches of snow, plus more snow and more snow and more snow over the next few weeks or whatever. And the snow really never melted. Well, now I want to say it was sometime in March. All of that snow melted in one day because the temperature shot up to like 75 degrees. And it was like summer for a day. Not spring, but like summer temperatures. Shorts and t-shirt weather. And so my friends and I decided to go camping at this place in West Virginia. I guess we're not really supposed to camp there, but we had been camping there many times and nobody came to bother us. And normally we would just drive across this creek and park on the other side of the creek and set up a campsite there. And the creek is normally like, ankle deep, just not really deep, ankle, no way it's coming up above your knees. Well, because of the snow melt that was going on that week, that day specifically, because, by noon, the snow was gone, and you're talking like there was at least 30 inches. It was like a ski resort. There was like 30 inches of snow covering the ground everywhere. It was crazy. I had to park on a snowdrift in front of my house because I was too lazy to dig out a parking spot, and I drove a Jeep Cherokee, so I could just kind of park it up like this and climb out of the vehicle, and I just didn't care. I'm like, it'll melt. Well, this one morning I came out, and by noon it was melted. And so we went camping, but when we got to the campsite, the creek was up above my waist. And I'm like, oh man, we can't do this. I can't get this thing across this. So we went looking for another place where we could cross the creek where it might be shallower, and we did find a spot. Unfortunately, we found a spot where we could cross the creek. We scouted it out. On the other side, it looked like we would even be able to wind our way through the woods and get to exactly where we wanted to park. Just stubborn. There were 20 different ways we could have done this differently and easily, but my stubborn ass was like, no, I want to park over there. And so, remember, I'm unemployed. I got pretty much, I'm living on unemployment. I didn't have a job at the time. And so I'm like, YOLO, let's just drive the Jeep across this creek. And just getting the Jeep to the creek ended up being a process in itself because the trail was really rough. And then we drove across the creek, no problem at all. Get to the other side of the creek, the Jeep just goes down into the mud on the other bank, opposite bank. And I guess we didn't scout that out good enough. And now the Jeep is buried. The Jeep got buried so deep that when I opened the driver's side door to get out, I had to scrape the mud out of the way to get, and the mud was even with the bottom of the door, and so there was no step down to get out. The mud was solid enough to stand on, but it wasn't solid enough to drive on. And it didn't help that my tires were kind of crummy. They were worn, a little bit worn out. So yeah, this was a real smart thing to do. And so, how much time do we got? I gotta try and do this quickly. So the short version of the story is we got stuck. We ended up walking through a train tunnel. We ended up walking through a train tunnel because my friend knew that on the other side of the train tunnel there was a bar, and it was called the State Line Bar because on the other side of the train tunnel it's Pennsylvania. And so my friend, he's an expert on the trains. He's like, no, there probably won't be a train coming through. Probably. So, but no, we got through the train tunnel, no problem. We got to this bar. The bar parking lot is full of lifted 4x4s and Jeeps and everything else. He's like, see, we'll be fine. We go in, we start telling everybody at the bar what's going on. This one dude shows up. He's like, yeah, I'll get you out of there. And so we all drive back. He gets back to where the creek crossing is, and he looks at us. It's like, you guys are a bunch of fucking idiots. I'm not doing it. I'm not going across this. Fuck you. And he fucking turns around and leaves us. And so luckily we had an extra car that we parked by the road, a Honda Civic that somebody followed us in. So we had the means to, why didn't we just take the car to the bar? I don't know. But we ended up going to a Walmart in the middle of the night to get ropes and shovels and some other things. And, we definitely, it's like 1 a.m. at a 24-hour Walmart, and when you're getting ropes and shovels and some other things of that nature, and you're going through the checkout line, you're definitely getting some looks from the people at the checkout line. What's going on, guys? But anyhow, we go back, and the next day we just camped next to the Jeep. We set up tents. We went to sleep. We were tired. We just went straight to sleep. And the very next day, I jumped up at the crack of dawn and I took that shovel and I dug a trench around the entire Jeep. All the way around the Jeep, I dug a trench, and then I got underneath the Jeep and I dug out all the mud. And so there was a whole, 2-foot trench. I dug the whole thing out. And I figured out that one of the rear wheels was below the water line, and there was a pile of some 2x4s and stuff that somebody had dumped in the woods somewhere. And so I was walking over to get some wood, and I was just gonna jack up the Jeep, put some of this wood underneath that rear tire, and I would have been able to get right out. Well, anyway, when I was going to get the wood to dig this Jeep out, or to prop the Jeep up and prop that one wheel that was giving me the problem, I didn't have a locking differential on the rear, and that was the issue. I even tried the parking brake trick to try and get the extra wheel to gain traction, and the situation was just getting worse and worse. But I knew that I dug out enough of the shit around the Jeep so that I could get, with propping up that wheel, I would have been right out, no problem at all. And so a random guy just shows up with a big Ford farm tractor, and he comes right up to me as I'm walking to get this pile of wood, and he looks at me, he's like, are you the retards that got stuck here in the creek last night? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And so he's like, come on. And so I get on the tractor, we drive back to the Jeep, and he has like a grader on the back of the tractor. So he gets in there and he basically grades out a pathway with his tractor. And then he hooks onto my rear axle with a couple of chains. I didn't even have tow hooks on the back of this thing. So he pulls me out about 5 or 6 feet just to get my wheel out of the hole that it's in below the water line. And from there, we unhook everything. He drives back across the creek. I drive back across the creek, and we're all good. I go and I give him some money for, enough to buy a couple of cases of beer. He didn't want us to pay him. He was just like, I heard about you guys last night. You're the talk of the town, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I figured I'd come over and get you guys out. No problem. And so I gave him enough money to get a couple of cases of beer and whatnot, but just for coming over to help us. And then, so now we're out. Jeep's covered in mud, but we're having a good time. We set up another campsite. We have a campfire going, and we're just enjoying the rest of the weekend. And there's a road up above us, the way that the hillsides are and whatnot. There's a road like maybe 50 feet above our campsite that is kind of hidden in the trees and stuff. And it's hard to explain without being there. And so we're just sitting there, having a good time, sitting by the fire. And I think more people had come to join us. And all of a sudden, I hear this, "Hey, retard! What's going on?" And we look up, and the guy that abandoned us the night before had come back to see what was going on, to see if he could help us. And so, we're like, "Come on down." And so he came down, and then he got his vehicle stuck. He got his vehicle stuck in the mud just trying to get back to us. And so we went up to him. We're like, "Oh, well, fuck you. We're just going to leave you here like you did us last night." And then, then his wife showed up. And then, I ended up actually using my Cherokee to get him unstuck from the mud. And then somebody else came and joined us. It basically turned into a big giant redneck party out in the woods with a bunch of four-wheelers, a bunch of 4x4s getting stuck in the mud, and a bunch of other 4x4s having to get other people unstuck from the mud. And we just tore this place up. It was crazy, but all the mud, it was all because of this big giant snow melt. But we were sitting around all weekend in shorts and a t-shirt. It was like the first 1 week or 2 of March. And we ended up becoming really good friends with these people. The guy that abandoned us that night, the guy who got to the creek in his Jeep and said, "Hell no, I'm not crossing that. You guys are idiots. I'm out of here." We ended up becoming really good friends with that guy. And so we ended up hanging out with them on a more regular basis. And we had to stop camping at this spot because people kept coming back. They heard, there was this big jamboree going on back there. And so all the locals are now showing up. And like I said, it turned into a big hillbilly 4x4 mud party / camping weekend in a place that none of us were supposed to camp. Supposedly, if the DNR had come back there, we would have all got big fines for camping back there. Would have been fine to drive back there, all the mudded up ruts and all that kind of stuff. That wasn't a problem. You're allowed to drive back there. But if they saw all the tents that we had set up, they would have had a problem with it. But we never saw anybody. Nobody ever came back. Everything, what they don't know, they don't know. And so, yeah, we had this great time. So what was going to be a major nightmare, I'm unemployed. I got pretty much no money. My only vehicle that I own is buried in the mud on the other side of a creek that nobody wants to drive across. What am I going to do? Oh, crap, I'm in trouble now. Turned into like a really awesome weekend and probably one of the best weekends of the year. And so that's the moral of that story is don't worry about it. The moral of the story is don't worry about it. And these are the things I got to think of as I'm, all this worry is building up about my situation here and about all of it is what I'm getting at. And so I'm going to have to get you going. I got to let you go. I'm not going to do the plugs today. I got to get somewhere. And let me think here. Tomorrow is another day. I'll do another video. And yeah, if I don't get off now, it's like we're like 54, 55 minutes. If I don't stop talking right now, it's going to make it so I can't put it on TikTok. And, I could get anywhere from 2 views to 800 views if I get it up there today. So anyway, I'm going to talk to you all later. Hope to see you tomorrow, and we'll you know, we'll do this again. Peace.